Gary Sheffield Jr. joins us now, does a podcast, Yankees Unloaded, on YouTube. And he's also a new dad. Chef, how you doing, buddy?
Rob, what's going on, man?
How's fatherhood treating you?
Not a ton of sleep, but we have a beautiful, healthy baby girl.
Oh.
Obviously, a ton of help from my wife, so it's been amazing.
Oh, so you're going to be a doting father on your daughter. Yeah, my daughter's 13 now. My older kids are in their 30s, but my daughter, and I can't wait for you to see that when all the boys come sniffing around. You're going to love it.
Can't wait.
Let's talk about the Yankees. We were just talking about this in the first segment. I mean, you're coming up on the trade deadline, but we talk about this all the time. You should have addressed a lot of this stuff in the offseason. You continue to count on like Gleyber Torres to do something. You brought in Verdugo thinking he was going to be a better player, but really like Cabrera, Volpe, guys like that you could hide them on other teams. You can't hide these kind of players on the Yankees. Your thoughts on just listen. We know Soto and Judge are great, but who else do you even think in the lineup is worth keeping?
I love how you used Anthony Volpe, who was supposed to be our top prospect, someone that we considered untouchable, and you mentioned hiding him. And that just is the story of the Yankees right now. Anthony Volpe is supposed to be a star. I think there's no other way to put that, is that his production should be much better this season. Of course, he's in his sophomore year. You can make all types of excuses that you want, but this is a player that we're making excuses for, and frankly, we don't do the same thing for a Gunnar Henderson, right? So this is part of the reason why the Yankees haven't taken that step forward that everyone wanted. But when you look at their roster, I mean, you're talking about guys, look at yesterday's roster. Obviously, they had a resounding win against Tampa, 9-1, but you have Ben Rice leading off. Austin Wells is your 4-hitter. Anthony Volpe's hitting 5th, and he's essentially hitting under 200 in the second, probably in the second half of that first half that we saw.
Right.
Verdugo hasn't hit in 2 months. You've got Oswaldo Cabrera, Trent Grisham, and DJ LeMahieu, all players to which no one expected massive production from. And when you're talking about a $300 million payroll, Rob, I don't know about you. I mean, you played baseball. There's a lot of money to be made in this sport, but I don't know many $300 million teams where I can name you the 5 through 9 of average hitters. The Yankees need more, and someone should be responsible for that.
And I agree with you. I mean, listen, we used to call it, exposing guys' weaknesses. So you're exposed, and when you play every day. And the reason why Volpe, I said this, when he first came up, I have kind of a 3-year deal where if you're not consistently good for 3 years, I'm not going to even put you in like an all-star class. I mean, as far as superstars, I guess it's like 5 years. Looking at somebody like a Mike Trout or guys like that are, Aaron Judge has had a couple of lean years in between a couple of really great years on the bookend. So some of these other guys, when you're playing in New York, it's different. You're playing in L.A. or Chicago, it's different. There's a bigger microscope and spotlight on you when you're playing in places like that. I mean, Gleyber Torres, anybody who doesn't want to play shortstop for the Yankees, I would have gotten rid of that guy immediately. I mean, that's my first sign that you're not mentally strong enough to play for the Yankees. You want to play shortstop for the Yankees. You want to play shortstop for the Dodgers. Those are like premier, pristine jobs. So that bothered me when those guys, and they've been looking for a catcher for years. I remember Joe Girardi got fired because he brought out and exposed the weaknesses of Gary Sanchez, and people didn't like that. Oh, no, we don't want you to talk bad about this guy. He's our future. So, I mean,
we want you to be the players manager. We want you to talk good about the players that we have this marriage going on with. And to be honest with you, a lot of times when you're playing, you're the Cowboys quarterback, or you want to be in the front lines. Well, a lot of that comes with accountability. People have to be able to, they need to be able to call you out. If something's not good enough, you need to be able to have enough psyche to where you can hear something critical and then do something with that information. But the problem with the Yankees right now is that they want players, managers, they want everybody to, it needs to be kumbaya. Everyone needs to be a friend. Everyone needs to talk about what's positive, never what's negative. It's seen as, criticizing the team when you have constructive criticism, right? It's considered an attack. And that's just not the way the Yankees should be covered. It's not the way the Yankees should attempt to get better. And frankly, when you were talking about Volpe and you give a guy a 3-year window, how many players in Major League Baseball, I mean, we talk about guys like Duran in Boston, right? Came up his rookie year. He was a little underwhelming. didn't exactly give him what they were expecting. But he comes into this year and proves to you why he's worth something, proves to you why he's worth a roster spot, and essentially he's going to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars in the future and a spot on this roster. Well, what's Anthony Volpe done? Volpe's a 220 career hitter in his 200 and some games played. He played every game last year. So when you consider a guy who's a 220 hitter, there must be a trade-off there. There must be the fact that he's leaving the ballpark often. He hit 20 homers last year. This year he's on pace for like 12. So you're talking about a player who's really a solid defensive guy at shortstop. Your second baseman didn't want to play shortstop, so you slid him over there. He's having the worst year of his career in a contract year. And now the Yankees are essentially headed up to the deadline, and Baltimore really doesn't know what to do because the rotation's thin. So now you're just looking at it and saying, well, does this Yankee team really believe they're a World Series championship quality team? Do they really believe that? We'll find out within the week because their deadline is going to reveal to us exactly how all in they are. Are they going to go in half-baked? Are they going to leave prospects untouchable the way they made Volpe untouchable? We're going to find that out here in the next few days, and I'm looking forward to covering that.
I know we just had the Hall of Fame, and by the way, I've told you this before, your dad belongs in the Hall of Fame. He was such a spectacular player. I played with him in 96 on the Marlins. I was injured all year. Your dad hit 42 home runs, drove in 120, hit 314 with a 465 on base percentage. Today, if you have a 325 on base percentage, that they consider you a pretty good major leaguer. Your dad, 292 career average, 393 on base percentage. We're never going to see those guys again. The only two guys that are close to that are Soto and Judge on the team. When everybody else, Gary, is below 300, on the 300 threshold, they're not even on base for your hammers. That's my biggest problem. So when I bring up Volpe or Cabrera or Torres, it's like you guys can't go 1 for 4 with a single and strike out 3 times. You have to walk more. You have to get on base any way you can. And that's what I think the problem is. It's not that the analytics nerds upset me. It's what you're telling people. You're reinforcing mediocrity with this below 300 on base percentage threshold, the 230 batting average. If 30 years ago on my team you were hitting 230, you're back in the minor leagues. So how do we bring these guys along with the analytics to at least be hitting 250 with a 330 on base percentage?
What's funny is that the guys today, they kind of chalk up velocity. I mean, you were a guy who was high velocity.
Right. You
were someone who wanted to rev it up there. And, of course, the harder you throw, the less time the hitter has to make a decision. But what's happening now is that in Major League Baseball, they're committing to not putting complete hitters up there. Let's just give our best opportunity to take one swing to score, and that's the way things are going to be done. And, frankly, if baseball is going to go the opposite direction, from an entertainment standpoint, they've got to buy into complete hitters. We've never watched players, and when you think about all the players that really make you come to the yard, those guys have multiple ways that they can go attack a pitcher. And that's something that I'm sure for you as a pitcher, that's something that you actually took into account. Okay, how many different ways can this guy beat me? I'm going to go away from it. But in today's game, there are so many different paths for a pitcher to attack that, frankly, if you're watching a baseball game, you're not going to see anything happen. You're going to see a 3-1 game where there was a 3-run jack in the second inning, and then the rest of the game is controlled by the pitcher. Guys aren't pitching inside anymore. Guys obviously have more movement, more spin, more velocity, and nobody's doing anything to combat that. They are putting more Joey Gallos up there. They are accepting that Anthony Volpe is a guy who hit 20 homers last year. They described it as a can't-miss rookie season, a lot to look forward to. He hit 205, Rob. If you hit 205 in the big leagues, do you remember, Rob,
you were a pitcher if you hit 205. Yeah.
Do you remember the Mendoza line?
Yeah.
220.
I know.
So that's where we are in Major League Baseball. It's not as entertaining, of course, but there are, of course, some side effects to velocity. It is harder to hit today than it was 20 years ago. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, absolutely.
But you need to do something about that. You can't just buy into, well, it's just harder. So it's acceptable that the average batting average is 240 today. That's, in my mind, I'm not willing to just give up on it. I need to make personnel decisions to actually impact winning.
As far as even tonight's game against the Mets, I mean, both teams are kind of in a conundrum here. Do you go all in on the postseason? Do you trade some of these pieces off to win this year? And you know, as someone who does this Yankees Unloaded podcast on YouTube like yourself, do you keep Soto for 500, 600 million, knowing again you've got 6 or 7 pieces that don't fit?
I'm going to be honest with you, Rob, that in a sport with no salary cap, I know this is definitely a hard conversation to have, but I just frankly don't feel sorry for billionaires that are creating a team. This is not the NFL where paying a quarterback $70 million is money that you cannot give now legally to the receivers and to the offensive line and your defensive line. That situation would make a lot of sense. If baseball was controlled that way, like a pie chart, I would say the Yankees might have to punt on this whole Juan Soto thing or just do nothing at the deadline. But considering the fact there is no salary cap, Hal Steinbrenner could just write a check and it wouldn't be a problem. That's my expectation. You do that this offseason, and the Yankees need to buy in. If you trade for Juan Soto, that's you telling us that you're all in, that you're trying to win in 2024.
Great
so
point.
Going into the deadline and not making sense of a win-now deadline, well, I mean, now it seems like you're pulling in two different directions. So for me, if you're the Yankees, if you're going to sell me this product that I'm going to show up and spend $38 for chicken tenders for my wife and I, well, then you're going to need to justify that by putting real talent on the field.
All right, let me ask you, let's go in a different direction. All-Star game just happened. You're a younger guy. You're talking about entertainment. All of my players, 15, 16, you all play MLB The Show. Are we trying to be too much like a video game, or should we get back to baseball? I mean, 64 guys. It was really about 80 players, some of the ones that couldn't play or backed out. What have you thought about the All-Star game the last few years, and just from the uniforms to the format to all that kind of stuff? What do you think of the All-Star game?
You know what? I love adaptability. The uniforms are atrocious, by the way. They look horrible. They look like pajamas from JCPenney. They don't look good at all. But I will say this. The most important thing about baseball is tradition. It always will be. It will never change. And the something about baseball and what Rob Manfred's done to this league, which is not committing to tradition and buying into essentially just having an open ear to the young audience and having them tell you what they want. But what will be proven is that tradition holds throughout years. You can have somebody and you can get them to adapt to your tradition. But one thing's for certain is there's nothing in this world that's long lasting where you just ask young people, hey, what is it that you want? You give it to them, and then 20 years later you expect to see them. They're on to the next thing. So baseball has to commit to what was working for them. And that was action-packed. That was home run derbies where we're not taking the camera off the ball before it even lands and having guys take 60 swings. I don't even know how important a home run is when I even see one, right? So you don't get those moments that you would see from a Josh Hamilton hitting the ball to the back of Yankee Stadium and just seeing the electrified Yankee Stadium. You can't get that anymore. So baseball has to look itself in the mirror, say, what did we do 20 years ago, 15 years ago that was working? What do we do now that is different, that's objectively not working? And as of now, they're not really doing that, Rob. So who knows, right? Who knows? Obviously, Manfred is on his way out the door, but baseball's just got to get a little more old school. Somewhere in the middle, they're going a little too far one direction.
Talking to Gary Sheffield Jr., Yankees Unloaded podcast on YouTube. Well, let me ask you about that. I mean, they put Paul Skeens out there. They wanted him to start, the All-Star game. As a young consumer, did you need that to be interested in the All-Star game? I know that they had a lot more streams and things like that, and social media-wise, they got a lot more like clicks and things like that. But you're someone that follows this. Your dad played. Did you need that to get you to watch the All-Star game?
I just need all the talent I can get. And that Skeens moment felt a lot like the whole Pedro thing where he's just dominating, striking out the side. Those are the moments we remember. Those little matchups that you get, 1, 2, 3 hitters, depending on who you're facing, the Aaron Judge. Okay, everyone wanted to see that. So if you really say, what did you want to see at the All-Star game? Well, I want to see Paul Skeens match up with Aaron Judge, the two most popular players essentially right now in the league outside of Ohtani. I need to see that matchup. Matchups, it's the reason WWE is as popular as it is. People want to see theater. And that's what baseball had to tee up. I thought it was a good move, no question about it. But if you want people to care about the All-Star game, you need to build a product that people care about in the regular season. And that will help build up the All-Star game, because right now it feels like the All-Star game is this random event in the middle of the year that people are supposed to just choose to care about after weeks of not caring. And that is why, Rob, I say tradition is the most important thing, because when you have a tradition of caring about something in the middle of the summer, everyone will show up.
As far as the Yankees, do they have to go deep in the postseason and win the World Series for Boone to keep his job, and even Cashman?
I won't say that about Cashman. I mean, Brian Cashman's been there since 1998. I mean, that's a long time to do anything. And the Yankees, as you know, Rob, I mean, you've been in baseball, you've played baseball. The Yankees haven't won a World Series since '09. It's been a long time. I was in ninth grade. I'm 30. I'm 31 later this year. They won one World Series title. It's unacceptable. But frankly, do I expect Brian Cashman and do I expect anyone to be held accountable, Aaron Boone, for a lack of results? I don't. I think that there's a lot of excuse-making. The Yankees said in 2017, we expected to win the World Series. We thought we were cheated out by Houston. Well, then why did you fire your manager in the first place if you thought that he was cheated out? Didn't make any sense, right? So the Yankees in general, they don't seem results-driven. They don't seem to care about results. It doesn't impact their future decision-making. It seems that they already have their minds made up of what they want to do, what direction they want to go in. So, Rob, I'm going to say they're not in jeopardy at all.
Gary, very nice to catch up with you. Give your wife all our love from this show, man. Good luck with your baby daughter, and we'll talk to you down the road soon.
Rob, thank you so much.
All right. Gary Sheffield Jr., everybody. Yankees Unloaded podcast on YouTube. We'll take a quick break, come back, do First Dibs question of the day. I think it is National Drive-Through Day here. This is one of the closest topics to our hearts here at the Rob Dibble Show, so we'll talk about that